All right, I'm going to start right here with the video simply because I've drawn the lines, and this will allow me to work backwards and then cover the entire delivery. But first, let me say, really, really impressed with some of the answers that I received via Facebook. I mean, those were some very educated ideas and concepts, and really impressed. And then on the other side, whenever you see a lot of Facebook, or just a general thought or perception of pitching, it really, really amazes me that, just our thought process, and not meaning to come off as that guy, because Lord knows over the 20 years that I've done this, I've been exactly in that situation, and it's just more so traditional thought. It's almost as if it's politics and religion. It's as if, well, I was told this, so this is how it is. Guys tend to be stuck in their thought process and not willing to move forward. And then a lot of what you hear on pitching and pitching mechanics, just if you really start to break it down and think about it, it's just not how the human body works. And it all comes back down to one of the biggest problems being cues. And cues can lead to so many different meanings, so many different interpretations, and it can be downright confusing. But at the end of the day, when it comes to pitching mechanics, everyone will be totally different. And in fact, no two guys or no single person will ever throw the ball the exact same way twice. So pretty amazing. But really, at the end of the day, pitching it's total chaos. The smallest movement will lead to some crazy things, and it's the cool part about that is the smallest change or adjustment will lead to bigger, cleaner, more efficient adjustments. So whenever you're evaluating pitching mechanics, I really challenge you to look outside the box, forget about what you've been told, what you've heard, what you've read, and start to question a lot of what you put out there. And finally, at the end of the day, how I've always done it is I would break it down, and then I would try to find every possible reason why I was wrong. And if I could find that, then I would start over. And if I couldn't, well, that's what I would go with. And I challenge you to do the same. So here's one of the things I want to point out, and I've drawn a line. Notice his head in this position here. I've actually just taken the marker as far as the nose, and you can see how it's at the top of the front leg to where on the right it's more so in the groin area. And anytime the head moves forward, it really leads to some nasty issues, because anytime the head's moving forward, that's telling you that the spine's moving forward, and that's what we're rotating around. We've got to have a spine where it's in the center of the body that allows for rotation, so you're not going to see that. But we're going to work backwards, and that's not the cause. I'll identify what's going on here and why, in my opinion, not saying I'm right, but in my opinion, here's where the issue lies. So let's go back. I'm going to clear this. And on the right, you're going to see this. Now, they look very, very similar. Now, this is a lefty. It's a really athletic kid. He's a Division I commit. But there's a couple of things. Number one is just that the arm action, what many call the inverted W, they're telling you it's an arm action issues. You'll see a lot of guys that spend time working with connection balls. And if you're not familiar with that, that's just basically like a little kickball that's placed underneath the arm. But that just doesn't make sense to me. And the reason it doesn't make sense to me is whenever you're evaluating pitching mechanics, there's always a cause and effect relationship. And the biggest problem that I see with most guys is that we treat the symptom versus the cause. And even though I get pretty good at keeping the connection ball under my arm, that's a symptom. The arm doesn't work independently by itself. It moves efficiently or inefficiently based on how the rest of the body moves. So when we start to look at this here, what you're going to see is the elbow there versus the elbow here, and they're basically in the same position there. So let's work backwards from here. We're going to take it this way. A couple of things. Number one, you're going to notice on the right, let's get to this. You're going to notice on the right, you see the starting position of the knee. A lot of guys said he brought the knee back in. You'll see the one on the left where the knee is straight up. Now, I don't prefer one over the other, but what you will notice is as you start to move forward, the closer that I can keep the knees together, the more in tight to the body that I'm going to be. I'm going to be closer to my center of gravity, and it's going to allow the body to move faster and a little bit more efficiently. Another thing that you're going to notice is it's just the handbrake. You'll see that he actually broke his hands a little bit lower here versus the one on the left. And we're going to go here. But what we're trying to figure out right here is why is the arm action different, and what change was it that he made? Well, number one, a big one, you're going to see that he immediately starts out to the inside of the back foot, whereas on here you'll see that the back foot is a little flatter. You can watch by the position of the knee. Now, for years I've taught that get to the weight to the inside of the back foot, but that's what I no longer teach that. We really promote keeping the foot flat, and there's a million reasons and just don't have time to get into that here. But we're looking for that flat foot as the knees being closer. Now let's watch this. All right, not a big difference, but you can see there it's a noticeable difference. It allows you to move faster. And then you start to couple that with the weight being, or the foot being flat. I'm able to utilize ground forces more efficiently because the entire surface of the foot is utilizing the ground versus the one on the left where it's just the inside. And guys that get to the inside tend to be pushers. One way we can always tell if a guy's pushing is, let's go back to where we're at the beginning to where the center line was drawn, and you notice how he was, right there we go, so it's right there. You can notice how the head is forward. That's what you'll see a lot of, there's a perfect one. That's what you'll see a lot of times with guys that start momentum too early and they tend to push out versus the one on the left that allows him, by keeping the weight in the center of the foot, one big example or proponent or plus to that, however you want to say it, is that it allows me to travel through the center part of my body. I don't rely on my feet so much as I do the center part of my body. So that's what's going on right here, is as he started to get to the inside just a little bit too soon, the head starts to move forward. It's not a very efficient way to move. And you'll also notice that the glove side is a little bit lower. That's going to influence what the arm does. But the big key was it started right here. As he starts to lift, he's flat on his foot versus getting to the inside. But notice the counter turn of the rear hip. So what this is going to do, I'm going to try to swirl this around, give you a better, daggone it, I'll give you a better idea of what we're talking about here, hopefully, is with the back glute, that's going to be the one on the right for him, that's just throw inside glute. As he starts to lift, you can see here, let's go back, there. The little counter turn of that glute as it swivels in that direction, just picture that, as it starts to swivel in that direction, is going to bring his knees closer there. That's what's going on with the knee. So he's not actually pulling his knee back there. That wasn't a conscious thought. You can see the one on the left versus the right. It was the actual glute with that little counter turn as it starts to move. That's what brought the knee into the body. It's also another reason which allowed him to stay flat on the foot. And then the rest of the stuff that you see with the arm action, with the head moving forward, was all a product of that initial move. So there are a couple contributing factors, but really it came down to two things. Number one, it was staying flat on the foot, and then it was the relationship of the counter turn of the glute right there. So as he starts to go into it, he's giving that little counter turn of that rear glute. It's not a push forward. It's not starting his hips early. It's simply as he starts to go, it's a counter turn of the glute. And we call that corkscrewing the hips, which starts to create some tension there on the foot. And it allows us to store energy a little bit more efficiently in that back hip. And then the longer that I can store that by not opening up the hips, Well, the body starts to move faster. As the body starts to move faster, it forces the arm to move faster. Because you got to realize the body's number one goal is self-preservation. It will go to great lengths to achieve that. And so if I can start to move faster through the center part of my body, well, the arm is going to go from A to B faster and more efficiently. Basically, you're giving the arm the impression that it's running out of time and it better hurry up and get its butt to class or it's going to be late. So it's really, really cool stuff. And that's just the beauty of pitching mechanics, and that's just one reason why we use the core velocity belt daily. It takes the thinking out of pitching mechanics. It teaches pitchers how to feel what you're trying to explain versus using cues or simply reading a statement on Facebook and trying to make sense of it. If we had this contest, and sure, a lot of you guys may have something very, very similar to what I'm saying, but from my opinion, as my perspective as I start to watch it, nobody got the answer correct. But however, if we were able to feel our way through this, a lot of you guys could have probably explained it a little bit better. But I really appreciate you guys taking interest in this. Really, really blown away by the number of people that participated in it, well over 2,000 people. And let me double check, but I believe I left off one important point, and that is I was referring to the core velocity belt. It takes the thinking out of mechanics. It allows you to feel it. But one thing it's going to do too is really, really taxes those glutes, and that's an area of the body that I find most guys don't have awareness with. And the more I become aware of the glutes and how to utilize those, that's really the true essence of hip rotation, as it starts with the glutes. Versus so many pitchers that attempt to, well, they confuse rotating with spinning and they confuse rotation with extension, and that's what a lot of guys do. So it really comes down to the glutes and being able to utilize those, and that's why you see with the arm action. If guys don't travel well through the center of the body, you're going to see a lot of that nasty stuff with the inverted W, because 9 times out of 10, the inverted W is not an arm action issue. It's a symptom of something else going wrong in the body. Again, thanks guys. This is Lance Wheeler, and really appreciate it.